Hey everybody, thank you so much for being here at Trauma Recovery University for live Q&A. My name is Athena Moberg and we show up here every single week, and along with the global community of adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse, we all show up here every single Monday and we heal and we talk about what it takes to heal from childhood abuse. So I want to first of all issue a trigger warning and just let you know that if you have endured any type of maltreatment during childhood or even in adulthood, this conversation could be triggering for you. And I would love for you to receive the compassion and the professional help that you deserve, because you're worth it. And so if you get triggered, just step away from the YouTube chat box and reach out to our friends over at RAINN, RAINN.org. That's the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network. Or you can reach out, if you're one of our brave men, our growing male survivor community, you can reach out to our friends over at oneinsix.org. That's 1IN6.org. And there's a great live chat feature. You can also, if you're located in the United States or Canada, you can dial 1-800-656-HOPE to reach the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network. Or if you are in the UK and you're awake and it's 2 in the morning, and I'm so happy you're here, 2:11 a.m. for you right now if you're here, or whenever it is that you're tuning in, you can reach out to the Samaritans at samaritans.org if you're located in the UK. There are tons of other resources being tweeted out right now using the hashtag #NoMoreShame. One of our volunteers tweets out resources to suicide hotlines globally, and there's also a live chat feature and text organizations that take text messages and sit with you if you're in crisis and talk with you via text message. So just check the hashtag #NoMoreShame over on Twitter, or Google crisis care, and you will be connected and you'll get resources automatically if you are in crisis right now. So thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited. This is a topic that gets requested probably every other week or so. And I could probably have a YouTube channel dedicated completely to self-compassion. Why is self-compassion so painful? Why is it so hard? Why can't I figure out the whole self-compassion thing? Like, it shouldn't be that hard, Athena. What's wrong with me? And we have such a harsh self-critic. And it actually, when we go to that place of self-criticism, it actually perpetuates the problem, which is our trauma, which is valid and happened when we were younger. Depending on how old you are and when your abuse happened, self-criticism can trigger a chemical cocktail in your body that causes you to be flipped into a fight or flight or freeze or fawn response, a trauma response. And then your reptilian brain kicks in, and then you're unable to make wise decisions and move forward in a way that will be compassionate to yourself, or even soothing to yourself, or even like what is in the best interest of your well-being. So we're gonna unpack all of that tonight. Oh my goodness, there's already 35 of you on YouTube alone. So I recorded a very brief Periscope just to let everybody know that the party's over here, and I recorded a very brief Facebook Live just to let everybody know that the party's over here. Because as you can see, I'm in a different room, and that's because my other room, in case you guys haven't been around and this is your first time here tonight, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm really excited that you're here, and I'm just grateful that you've chosen to spend time with all of us. Please receive compassion and support over in the chat box on YouTube, and give compassion and support to others. And please be kind to one another. There is no room here on this channel for haters or unkindness. And as most of you know, we hosted the 2nd annual World Narcissistic Abuse Awareness Day here on Thursday, and we also hosted the 2nd Healing from Narcissistic Abuse Virtual Summit. And every time I open up this YouTube channel to host a summit for the narcissistic abuse community, I get inundated with hate mail and ugly, abusive messages, and just people who are just unkind. And you know, I just don't have time. I'm sorry. If you have something valid and, you know, validly criticizing to say in a way, you know, that is leaving room for a response, I am more than happy to respond in a polite and respectful way. And if you have left a valid criticism in a message that leaves room for me to respond in a respectful way, I apologize for not getting back to you yet, as I have been inundated with ugly, disgusting, horrible messages from people who tell me that I'm annoying, and why was I born with such an annoying voice, and why do I not know anything, and I'm hosting a summit, and I'm stupid, and I'm ugly, and I need to quit touching my hair, and what's wrong with you, and I'm so glad I'm not annoying like the host is, because if I was born with a voice like the host of that summit, I would kill myself. Like, what is that supposed to do to anybody? Honestly, like, those are just the messages that you guys aren't seeing in the comment section below the summit. The ones you are seeing are, they're valid, and I'm glad that it's a place for people to have a safe conversation. I'm all about freedom of speech, but there's just no room for trolls and haters. So if you are here and you want to receive support and you want to be kind to others, fantastic. So glad you're here. This is what we do every week. But if you are just in a place where you want to criticize everybody and be unkind and be a troll and just be unhelpful, then you can go somewhere else. Because as Richard Grannon would say, YouTube is strictly voluntary, darling. And yeah, it's voluntary. No one's making you be here. So if you don't like it, go away. And if you want to be here with everybody else, our awesome community of thousands of survivors from 180 or more countries, and you want to support other people and receive support, then welcome, welcome. I'm so excited you're here. The topic of self-compassion is one that is very, very complex, and it just seems like such a simple idea, self-compassion, but actually it's not really simple. And especially for abuse survivors who during their formative years and developmental years were given messages from possibly parents or caregivers or their abusers, if it wasn't their parent or their caregiver, that were not compassionate. And so to be self-compassionate is in direct conflict to the messages that they're receiving. So there's dissonance there and there's confusion. And in order to solve that confusion and that dissonance, we choose to be unkind to ourselves, because then everyone's happy. The person being unkind to us is happy. And then we're not confused as to why we're trying to be kind to ourselves, but that's not working because someone's not being kind to us. So the dissonance is satisfied and the abuser is satisfied. So yay, problem solved. Except for when you get into adulthood and you've developed a habit of being unkind to yourself and self-criticizing. So if this topic is one that's really, really new to you, I'm really excited you're here for tonight, because we have awesome volunteers behind the scenes. I want to give a very, very, very special thank you to Jack, who does the Storify every single week. Thank you, Jack. He and his awesome family all participate, and they have every week for a couple years now, maybe 2 or 3 years. I can't remember how long. And then we have Matt, who's awesome, and he runs a blog called survivingmypast.net, and you should check that out if you are trying to survive, thrive, and conquer your past. And then there's also Dawn, who's an amazing, incredible advocate and just a warrior for other people and just a compassionate soul. And she's a volunteer as well. So I have people moderating behind the scenes. They're going to send me your questions. So post your questions in the chat box over on YouTube, and then I will check them out after the teaching portion, which is going to be right now. And then a very special thank you to Maggie and to Jody and to Poppy from Poppy's Mission, and to Heather Tuba for her tireless work as an advocate, and just everyone, every single one of you who are here. And I'm just grateful for each of you. So I am going to go ahead and let's see here. I'm going to move over to the teaching portion tonight. And please post your questions, because I know that I see there's a little bell down here. And I know that you guys already have questions waiting on the topic of self-compassion, because you're awesome and interactive and just supportive and amazing. So good for you for doing that, first of all. And then I'm going to just do the screen share now, and then I'm going to take all of your questions until the end of the broadcast, as many as I can possibly fit in, because I have boxes to unpack and things to do, and I want to be here and serve you and be of service to you, but I also need to make my house not feel like it's a temporary place, because I'm still in transition from moving, because we sold our house, 4 bedrooms, and we're in a 1-bedroom apartment now, which is awesome, and it feels really good to do that. But I'm downsizing, and that requires a lot of purging and deciding like what to keep, what to give away, and organizing things and making things fit in small boxes. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to go ahead and do the screen share now. I have 2 screen shares actually. And then I'm going to pop over and do all of your questions. And thank you in advance for asking awesome, amazing questions, because you do every single week. So this isn't a monologue. This is a conversation. This is a dialogue, and I would love to hear from you guys. Okay? So really quickly, here we go. I hope you can hear me okay, first of all. And I hope that you can see the screen share on self-compassion. Please let me know if you can. Let's see here. I hope you guys can see that. Let me make sure, let me check over here and make sure you guys can see it. Okay, thanks for your support, you guys. I hope you can see the screen share. Okay, that's my concern. I'm gonna go ahead and just start, and I'm hoping you can see this. This is self-compassion Q&A, but first I want to distinguish the difference between self-esteem and self-compassion. Those are 2 buzzwords. So self-esteem is, and again, these are very brief examples. I'm really dialing this down and keeping it to the basics tonight. So anything that I'm leaving out and more lengthy discussions we can have over on Twitter and on Facebook in our groups, but I'm going to keep this brief for tonight. So self-esteem is defined as a confidence in our worth, abilities, and accomplishments. Self-compassion is having confidence in our worth regardless of our abilities or accomplishments. So for someone who is disabled, like many of the survivors in our community, I have several of you that I'm in touch with on a professional basis, working as clients one-on-one and private clients, and then also in our groups. And several of you are in wheelchairs. You have been disabled or you've been challenged mobily, you're mobility challenged, and you struggle with your physical abilities on a daily basis, and that's all you've ever known. So self-esteem can be really hard to come by if you're basing your worth on your abilities and your accomplishments, because chances are you're feeling like, gosh, I can't really accomplish very much and my abilities are really limited, Athena. But self-compassion is something that everyone can take part in, because it is a confidence in our worth just by being a human being worthy of love. And that's regardless of our abilities or our accomplishments. So it's really important to note as we get started in on this, okay? A great quote regarding self-compassion is this: self-compassion is not a way of judging ourselves positively. Self-compassion is a way of relating to ourselves kindly, embracing ourselves as we are, flaws and all. And that quote is by Kristen Neff, and she said this during a TEDx talk, which is listed in the video description below, right where you're watching right now, down in the description section. If you click, you will see it. And later on, or now, whichever you decide, take the 20 minutes that it takes to watch her TEDx talk, because it will be hugely validating for you. And just so you know, Kristen Neff is a PhD, and she's a researcher, and she's an analyst, and she also has a child who is autistic. And this is, self-compassion is something that she has not only researched and spent a lot of time studying in her postgraduate work, but something that she is talking about from a personal perspective, being a mother of a special needs child. So do take the 20 minutes it takes to watch her TEDx talk, which is located below this video. The 3 core components of self-compassion are self-kindness, which is treating ourselves with kindness, versus harsh self-judgment, with encouragement, kindness, and patience. The goal is to treat ourselves the way we would treat a good friend. Like the way you guys are treating one another in the chat box right now, that is kindness, that is encouragement, and that is patience. So when we treat ourselves that way, it's the opposite of being critical of ourselves. And that's really what we're going for. The way you're treating one another right now over there in the chat box, and the way you would treat a good friend, that is how we would like to treat one another. The second component of self-compassion is common humanity. How am I the same as others, rather than how am I different than others? What does it mean to be human? It means to be imperfect. Imperfection is a shared human experience. Many of you know that I've done a lot of studying and a lot of research on the topic of shame and imperfection as a result of the groundbreaking work of Brené Brown. If you guys would like to search for Brené Brown, please watch 2 of her TED Talks that she does. One is on imperfection and the other is on shame, I believe. And that's B-R-E-N-E, Brown, like the color. And it's amazing, and it's, again, hugely validating. So take the time to go look that up. And the third core component of self-compassion is mindfulness. I know we talk a lot on this channel about mindfulness, and this is about the time you're going to tune out and go blah, 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 blah. Athena's talking about mindfulness again. But please don't miss this, okay? A good definition of mindfulness is being with what is in the present moment. We, as survivors, need to be able to turn towards, acknowledge, and validate the fact that we are suffering in order to give ourselves compassion. We're often not aware of our suffering, especially when it comes to our own harsh self-criticism. And when we do not notice the pain we are causing ourselves, we are unable to give ourselves the compassion we need. So here's the million-dollar question. Why do we do this? Why are we as a culture lacking in self-compassion? And even more specifically, why are we as adult survivors of childhood abuse lacking in self-compassion? Well, the obvious answer is we weren't taught self-compassion, and it was not modeled for us if we were abused as children. That's the obvious answer here on this YouTube channel. But if we want to look to research, and we want to look to science, and we want to look at the real answers here, I'm going to refer to humanity as a whole, because guess what? Sometimes when we as survivors are in our survivorness, we forget that it's an entire human condition that we're dealing with. And then once we realize that it's a human condition we're dealing with, we feel less alone. So again, back to this question, why are we as a culture lacking in self-compassion? Research shows the #1 reason we as a culture are harsh or critical of ourselves is that we believe we need self-criticism to motivate ourselves. We believe if we are too kind to ourselves, we will become self-indulgent and lazy. We learn this in childhood. Are bells going off for anyone right now? We learned a lot of things in childhood. If you're an adult survivor of childhood abuse and you're on this YouTube channel, so I assume you are, and if you're not, then maybe this video isn't for you. Go find something else that is, but you are welcome here. But hello, we learned a lot in childhood. We learned that we weren't worthy of protecting. We learned that we weren't worthy of kindness. We weren't worthy of love. We weren't worthy of shelter, kindness, love, food, clothing, approval. We learned a lot of things. Messages were given to us through words and actions, and we proceeded through life on the basis of what we were taught and the messages we were given. And those were not accurate messages. Those were lies. So again, we believe as a culture, back to the human condition, that we need self-criticism to motivate ourselves. We believe that if we are too kind to ourselves, that we will become self-indulgent and lazy. So, is it true? Is it true that we will become self-indulgent and lazy if we are self-compassionate? Research shows that this is absolutely untrue. In fact, research shows harsh self-criticism actually undermines our motivation. Why does harsh self-criticism actually undermine our motivation? Well, let's look at this on a neurological and a physiological level to answer that question. This is my favorite part of tonight's teaching. Don't miss this. So when we are harshly self-critical, Heather Tuba, if you're here right now, I've totally thought of you when I was doing this research. You're gonna love this. You guys, this is amazing. Don't miss this. When we're harshly self-critical, this ignites our threat defense system, the reptilian brain, and this harsh self-criticism triggers an overabundance of cortisol and adrenaline flooding to our reptilian brain. This happens because our reptilian brain processes and experiences emotional threats and pain in the same way it processes and experiences physical threats and pain. So our reptilian brain is capable of protecting us from severe attack or bodily harm. But when the attack is on our self-concept and not our actual body, the reptilian brain processes it the same. So in the same way, when we think a thought about ourselves, a critical thought about an imperfection, who are we to not be perfect, right? The reptilian brain feels threatened and it attacks the problem. In this case, it attacks the self. So we see with self-criticism, it's a double whammy because we are both the attacker and the attacked. Self-criticism releases a lot of cortisol. If you are a harsh self-critic with constantly high levels of stress, eventually the body, to protect itself, will shut itself down and become depressed in order to deal with all of the stress. And as we know, depression is not exactly the best motivational mind state. So here's the good news, you guys. Even though we have a part of the brain called the reptilian brain, we're not reptiles, we're mammals. And since we are mammals, there is a way we can feel safe, and that is by tapping in to the mammalian caregiving system. What is unique about mammals is that they are born very immature, which means during the time we are developing, we instinctively want to experience warmth, gentle touch, and soft vocalizations. I'm going to pause right there and I'm going to point out the obvious, the elephant in the room, and that is when we were developing, like when we were children and perhaps being abused, we instinctively wanted to experience warmth, gentle touch, and soft vocalizations. So guess what? Our needs were not met. That's what we wanted, but we didn't get it. Okay? So there's a fear of showing ourselves compassion because we didn't receive it when we were younger. And we were craving warmth, gentle touch, and soft vocalizations, and we didn't get it. So since we don't think we're ever going to get it, we don't go after it. So extensive research, I'm right down here now, extensive research shows that when we show ourselves compassion, even if we have not experienced it before, we are actually releasing both oxytocin and opiates, which are feel-good hormones. Did you get that? You guys, science, biology, research shows that when we show ourselves compassion, even if we have never experienced it before, we are releasing oxytocin and opiates, which are feel-good hormones. So now I'm going to show you a little bit of a diagram and I'm going to go more in depth to this, okay? From 2003 to 2012, there were an increased number of research studies shown done on self-compassion. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to show you. Are you guys all still with me here? This gets really, really good towards the end. I'm almost done, and then I'm going to answer all your questions. So here is the increase in studies done on self-compassion. So, okay, in 2003, there were very few studies being done on self-compassion. But as the years went on, all the way up until about 5 years ago, look how many studies have been done just on the topic of self-compassion. So this research isn't old research, you guys. This research isn't from the 1500s, the 1920s, the 1950s, the 80s, the 90s. No, this research is in this millennial, okay? This research is recent. And what the research shows, wait for it. Here we go. Self-compassion is very strongly related to mental well-being, healthy lifestyle changes, less stress, less perfectionism, and is equally strongly related to positive states like happiness, life satisfaction, greater motivation, and taking greater self-responsibility toward healthier lifestyle choices. Self-compassion is also linked to having a deeper sense of connectedness with others, resulting in better interpersonal relationships. Research has been done comparing self-esteem and self-compassion. Now, remember, self-esteem and self-compassion. Remember the differences between self-esteem and self-compassion? Let's go back up here. Self-esteem is defined as having a confidence in our worth, abilities, and accomplishments. Self-compassion is having confidence in our worth regardless of our abilities or our accomplishments. So keeping that in mind, self-compassion offers the benefits of self-esteem without the pitfalls associated with self-esteem, which there are many. I'm sure you can come up with a lot without me even clicking over and looking at your comments. Self-compassion is associated with strong mental health, but it is not associated with narcissism, constant social comparison, or ego defensive aggression. And it also provides a much more stable sense of self-worth than self-esteem does, because self-compassion is there for you precisely when you fail, when your accomplishments fail, when your abilities fail. That is where self-compassion comes in. But it's a muscle, you guys. It's a muscle. You have to practice it. It doesn't just come and show up without you making it part of your daily life. So I'm going to start right here. Just when self-esteem deserts you, self-compassion steps in and it gives you a sense of being valuable. Not because you have reached some standard or because you have judged yourself positively, but because you are a human being worthy of love in that moment. So tonight's talk in a nutshell, and then I'm going to pop over and I'm going to answer your guys' questions for the next 45 minutes. Harsh self-criticism and self-judgment trigger a trauma response, which releases cortisol and adrenaline, causing us to feel anxiety, fear, and eventually burnout, which leads to exhaustion and depression. Does that describe anybody here? Show of hands. Anxiety, fear, burnout, exhaustion, depression. Anyone? Anyone? Bueller? Bueller? Yeah, me too. So, self-compassion, self-soothing, warmth, gentle touch, and soft vocalizations trigger a sense of safety and well-being, thus releasing oxytocin and opiates, causing us to feel calm and good. And when we feel safe and comforted, we are in the optimal state of mind to do our best in every area of our lives. And to make it even more succinct and more of a nutshell, harsh criticism says, "What's wrong with you? You should be doing better. Shame on you. You will never heal." And self-compassion says, "What can I do to help? How can I best support you? I believe in you. Your best is good enough. I am proud of you. We will succeed even if it takes a while to get there." That is what compassion says. So I'm going to stop doing the screen share. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to get a drink of water. I'm going to answer your questions. So 1 second here. Okay. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Y'all are amazing. There's a lot going on here. Hey, you guys, if you haven't been listening to Matt's podcasts, survivingmypast.net, he has a podcast called Surviving My Podcast. And it's all about survivors and surviving, thriving, and conquering your past. Our very own Dawn did a podcast with Matt, and it's going to be aired pretty soon. So you got to tune in. If you haven't been checking those out, you guys gotta check it out. It's all of our peeps, you guys. Woo woo, family for the win. Let me see. Oh, here we go. Okay. Heroes Don't Wear Capes says, the bullying and harassment I experienced from family was soul destroying. I was labeled a liar and a slut and a homewrecker, and it left me feeling alienated and worthless. Self-compassion I find repulsive. I just want to look at you and tell you that you're not repulsive, and that you're not a homewrecker, and you're not a slut, and you're not any of those things that anybody said to you. So, you know, that might be hard to receive. We have a hard time receiving messages of truth about ourselves sometimes because it's easier to believe the bad stuff because it feels familiar. But I just want to tell you that that's a lie, and that you're a human deserving of kindness and love. And I believe in you. And thank you for being brave, sharing tonight. Poppy says the shame-blame game that I experience from family is suffocating and emotionally exhausting. Recently, being blamed for suicide because of no contact. Self-compassion seems impossible. Poppy, I'm so sorry. Again, I don't know how to express to you how badly I feel that you're being treated so poorly by your family. But I hope being here with all of us restores your hope in humanity a little bit, because those people don't know you. And we do know you. So I can't take the pain away from all the things that your family's doing to you, but I hope I can shed a little bit of truth. I hope all of us can shed a little bit of truth and let you know that we think you're amazing and you're a human worthy of love and kindness. I hope that helps. Grace Hope, how do you give yourself compassion when you hate yourself? What is self-compassion? Just the thought makes my stomach turn. I'm so glad you asked, Grace Hope. That is such an excellent question. So the reason self-compassion is so painful for abuse survivors, especially child abuse survivors, is because it goes against our programming. And I know that some of you here have a hard time believing or understanding that we were actually programmed. Some of you struggle with that terminology. It's a little bit too woo-woo for you, and you're not necessarily buying into the fact that there is a such thing as programming, like mind control. And so if that's you, then I can't change your mind, and that's okay. But for those of you that understand and believe the truth, and that is that there is programming, and that we were indeed programmed to only listen to certain people and to completely sacrifice our own well-being for that of the abuser or the group or the other, whoever the other is, whoever the family unit is, whoever the leader is, if it was our parent, if it was our loved one, you've been programmed. And so self-compassion feels completely foreign, and it feels wrong. It almost causes us to feel guilty because it goes against everything we've ever been taught. Goes against all of our programming, all of it. So it's as though you're programming a computer to do a certain thing. And if it tries to do anything different, or if there's a program that is in opposition to what it's programmed to do, it will say syntax error, syntax error, syntax error. And it will just do it over and over and over again, right? So you have been programmed to hate yourself, because hating yourself meant that you relied completely on others. And the reason we were programmed to hate ourselves oftentimes is because our abusers truly, truly on a deep, deep soul level hated themselves and were seeking some sort of life beyond themselves by cannibalizing us, or exploiting us, or terrorizing us, or victimizing us, or using us for what they wanted to use us for, or invalidating us, or ignoring us. They hate themselves so much. It's hard to believe. I didn't believe this until I was at least 40, because I got told this at the beginning of my recovery journey like 17 years ago, and I never listened because I needed to find it out for myself. And then I finally looked at all of everything, the whole picture, and not just my piece of it, because my reality is a piece of the reality of what's going on. It's my reality, but it's not the whole picture. It's not the whole picture of the trauma and the psychopathology of what happened in my abuse, and the intergenerational dysfunction, and just the system of abuse that I was involved in. So if I look at the entire picture of the abuse, I see that it was programming, and that my abusers really did hate themselves, and they hated me a lot because I was a reminder of just how horrible they really were. Because no matter how evil they were to me, I was nice to other people. I didn't do it because I was like, I know what I'll do. I'll fuck with them and I'll be nice to people. No, it was just me. It's just, you're either one way or another. You're either a nice person and you're kind to others, or you're not. You know, it's just kind of like how children are, you know? So Grace Hope, you hate yourselves because your abusers scooped out your insides and they filled you with them. And they are filled with hate. And so they've tricked you into believing that you actually hate yourself, because they scooped out your insides and filled you with their disgustingness. So if we can all get to a place where we are resisting the programs and we adopt the idea that we are human beings worthy of love and kindness, regardless of our performance, regardless of our abilities or accomplishments, then we're actually on our way to healing and living a life that's worth living. So the reason it sucks so bad, Grace Hope, is the reason you think you hate yourself and that it feels like you hate yourself is because your abusers hated themselves, and they want you to believe that you hate yourself also. They wanted you to hate yourself. Because if you hated yourself enough, then you would cease to exist and they can move on to the next person. And it's really, really twisted when you see your abuser showing what looks like love to someone else, and they're showing hatred towards you. That's what happened in my case, and I know in a lot of your cases. I know I have the privilege of knowing a little bit, more than a little bit, about some of your guys' situations. And I'm here to tell you that the reason self-compassion is hard and it makes our stomach turn is because it feels selfish. It feels self-indulgent. It feels wrong. It goes against our programming. And our insides were scooped out and we were filled up with what our abuser wanted us to be filled up with, which is just to be an extension of them. We were just little robots to meet their needs. And that was whatever they wanted us to do. You know? So I hope that helps. And I know that it's that one question, Grace Hope, could be an entire YouTube channel dedicated to that one question, because it's such an excellent question. And it's the $1 million question that every survivor asks. So my hope is to break this down a little bit tonight and to give you guys some tools with handles so you can walk away and go, okay, I think I'm open to being open to learning about this. I don't know if I'm open to it, but I'm open to maybe being open. So the rest of this video isn't going to be helpful for you if you're not in that place. So not to tune anybody off or turn anybody off or turn you away, but this video is going to be about learning how to be self-compassionate. So if you're not open to being open to learning about self-compassion, then click on a different video or go to a different channel, because that's what we're going to talk about tonight, and I'm going to help you guys with that for the next half hour at least. So it's going to be, this is hard stuff, you guys. This isn't easy. This is, like, as Richard Grannon would say, this is black belt stuff. Willow says self-sabotage, self-harm, self-destructive, self-hate. I know all of them well, but self-compassion, that's got to be like learning another language. It is. Willow, that's so perfectly put. It is like learning another language. It definitely is, because we're programmed as children who were abused. The messages that were being given to us and modeled for us were abuse, right? Torture, 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 abuse, 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 ridicule, harm, neglect, criticism, unkindness, impatience. So if that was what was modeled for us, that's what we duplicate. That's what we take that on. So it is like learning another language. But I promise you, if you're open to it, we can learn it. I know, because I was taught to hate myself. I was living with an eating disorder by the time I was like 11. So because I hated myself so much. I hated myself. I hated my body. I hated everything that was me, because I was taught to hate myself. And it wasn't really me, though. Like, it was just one of my abusers scooping out my insides, filling me with hers. And I just took on all of her self-hate. And it's very foreign. It's very foreign for me to sit here, and how ironic and hilarious is it, me, the like self-hate queen, self-sabotage queen, to be sitting here talking about self-compassion. But I'm teaching from a lived experience, and I'm telling you it's possible. And this isn't going to be easy. This is not easy, but I promise you it's worth it. It is like another language, though, Willow. Perfectly stated. Hi, Sabra. I'm so happy you're here. Sabra says, can I ask how to show self-compassion when I feel like I am failing in therapy and never going to heal? I am frustrated with myself so much right now for not being strong enough. I have felt that way a lot. You are not alone, Sabra. You are not alone. I would say that going back to the screen share, at the very, very, very bottom of the screen share, we give a little bit. Hey, I think there's like a bug. There's a bug on my curtain. Ooh, I don't like that. I want to go kill it, but I don't want to leave you guys. Thank goodness it's tiny. I don't like bugs. Ew. So we're going to go over to the screen share really quick. We're going to look at the very, very bottom, because I think this will be helpful for you, Sabra. So like down here, to make it really succinct, if what you're saying, like in your question, is what's wrong with me? Why am I not doing better? You're feeling shame. You're feeling like you will never heal. That is a harsh self-criticism. So what's happening in the brain when you do that is it ignites chemicals in your brain, and it ignites your threat defense system in your reptilian brain, and it triggers an overabundance of cortisol and adrenaline flooding to your reptilian brain. And it's because your reptilian brain is processing your emotional pain the same way it would process a threat, like if someone was coming after you and they needed, your reptilian brain would be preparing you to run or to fight for yourself, to fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So what I would say is, rather than doing that, which is our natural instinct, what I would love for you to do, and this isn't going to happen on accident, okay? All of this stuff has to be very intentional. And if we intentionally choose to choose to be open to being open about learning how to be patient and kind with ourselves, and remember what we as mammals, just on a very basic level, are craving so that we will feel safe is warmth, kindness, compassion, soft vocalization. And so what I'm going to talk to you guys about at the end of tonight's broadcast is how abuse survivors can take their first steps into becoming open to being open to this, so that it doesn't feel like an impossible thing. And I would say one of the easiest things to do is like guided meditation, like a 15-minute guided meditation. I don't have one for sale. It's not like I'm selling you something. Although you guys have asked me to go down to the beach and record the waves and to post it in the groups because you just want to listen to it as you fall asleep. And many of you have also asked me to read stories, like children's stories, because you were never read stories as children. Again, those are those mammalian, that's a very basic human need. You want soothing sounds. You want soft vocalization. You would like for me to read you a story. You would like to listen to the waves. Guided meditation, which I want to point you guys to a place where you can find some, whichever one you end up liking. 15 minutes of just listening to a guided meditation. And what that will do is it will open your mind to saying, well, what I'm going through, it actually is hard. It's not easy. And I am accomplishing a lot. And, you know, the struggle is real. And I'm taking these steps so that I can reach my goals. And this is hard, but I'm going to eventually get there. And while all of that may seem woo-woo or unattainable, I promise you, again, it doesn't happen on accident. But if you allow yourself to be open to being open to this, over time, it will become easier and easier, and it will become kind of a part of your daily practice, which is why DBT is so amazing if you're open to that. Now, if you're in a completely dissociated state and you have no recollection of what you're feeling, how you're feeling, you have no words, you're nonverbal, and you're completely dissociated from life because you're just frozen completely, DBT isn't going to do anything for you. Not going to do you any good to be mindful about anything. So that you're going to need to get into a place where you're not in crisis and perhaps do things that are not having to do with being mindful or speaking. You know, drawing out what it is you're feeling, taking photographs of things and thinking about how that photograph makes you feel, painting something, bouncing on one of those little mini trampolines, going for a walk, doing something physical in your body, or painting something, or listening to something like soothing sounds that trigger senses. Think about what you're smelling. Get some essential oils that you happen to like. Get one of those fidget toys that they have online. Have sour candy, like those candies called Warheads or Sour Patch Kids, things that will ground you and bring you back into your body. And then you can begin to be open to being open to a guided meditation, which will sort of start you on a path to possibly being okay with being kind to yourself and patient to yourself. It's not going to happen overnight. This is a long process. Many of you want me to just give you the magic pill. Athena, I can't imagine making it through one more day, and you're telling me this is going to be a really long journey. I just want to give up. I realize that you just want to give up. That's your choice. But I'm telling you this is a long journey. It's not going to happen overnight. But I am telling you it's worth it and it's possible. So I hope that answers a little bit of your question. Sabra, that is just such an excellent question. It's an excellent question, and I'm hoping that that answer helped you a little bit. You are strong enough, and you're not failing. I promise you, you're not failing. Jack says, I still struggle with self-compassion. DBT is helping, but it is still hard. I feel my abuser crushed things to dust. And then I see Simi, his wife, and Minute Maid, his child, struggling. And sometimes my wife and I cross-trigger each other. Any ideas? Yeah, that's really hard. I do have some ideas, though. I do. First of all, kudos to your whole family for doing the hard work. You guys are on a path to healing. You guys are going to heal. You've been here. You're doing the hard work. You're going to heal. But when you're cross-triggering one another, you guys are really, you need to come to a conclusion with one another, like, this isn't helping. We need to separate, and we'll come back when we're ready. Because if you're cross-triggering one another, it's only going to be self-perpetuating, and the only thing that's going to come out of that is more harm and more sabotage. So the key is to step away, patience, kindness, compassion, and as far as your child is concerned, modeling that self-compassion for your children is huge, because then you're breaking the generational cycle, right? I mean, I would love for you, Simi, and you, Jack, to think, was self-compassion modeled for me? Was I shown how to be kind to myself? Was I shown how to heal? And if the answer is no, then you have the power to model that for your children and to learn it, being open to being open. Just continuing to do the work that you're doing and separating when you guys are triggering one another, because that can be really hard. And you know, Heather Tuba has written some really good articles for spouses, and maybe you probably already have read her articles, but if you haven't, I highly recommend, because you guys are doing some hard work and you are going to heal. Joey says, yesterday I did stuff that normally any personal assistant does for me, like I did laundry and cleaning, but I did it yesterday myself just to see if I can do it. And I did it, and everyone was congratulating me on it. But I felt it was no big deal, but it was a big deal because I couldn't do those things for myself because of anxiety. Why is it hard for me to accept praise? Oh, I love this question, Joey. What an excellent question. It's so hard for us to accept praise for the same reason why it's hard for us to be kind to ourselves and compassionate to ourselves, because it goes against our programming. So if a child, as an adult, for an adult child of an abusive upbringing, so someone who's an adult now but they were abused as children, if they were to ask themselves, how often was I praised for doing good things? And how often was I applauded for my abilities and encouraged to keep going and awarded and praised and rewarded and shown kindness and patience? And oftentimes adult survivors of child abuse, the answer to that question is not very often. That isn't something that was regular in my home. And so receiving praise and accolades as adults goes against all of our programming. Again, it's like that syntax error. You've been programmed to hate yourself. You've been programmed to feel like crap. You've been programmed to take the blame of everything and everyone, take responsibility for everything. You've been programmed to stay stuck. You've been programmed to depend on other people for your reality. And you've been programmed to stay immobilized and sort of in the same place so that you depend on the people around you so that they can continue to re-victimize you. And so when someone is praising you and congratulating you, it's like your defenses go up like, whew, what's that about? Like Danger Will Robinson. And two things here. One, yes, if people who have been predatory in the past are praising you, beware. Don't trust it, because when someone shows you their true colors, believe them. And if the people who abused you and exploited you are now congratulating you and being kind to you, there's a reason. They're setting you up to exploit you and to harm you. And they're just going to wait till your guard is down. So that's one. And two, the reason it's so hard to accept accolades is because it goes against our programming. We were programmed to feel crappy all the time. Yeah. And to bear the brunt of everybody's sort of like criticism. So we were trained to self-criticize, and that's why self-compassion feels so foreign. Hopefully that was helpful. Jamie, I love you, Jamie. Jamie says, oh my gosh, I'm attacking myself by criticism. Yes, we attack ourselves. Isn't that mind-blowing? I loved how Kristen Neff laid that out in her TED Talk. It was just amazing. I was like, wow, that's really, really good. So again, everything that I said on today's screen share is all based on Kristen Neff's TED Talk. It was basically a synopsis of her TED Talk. So all the copyright and accolades, as I mentioned in the YouTube comments or the YouTube description, everything belongs to Kristen, not to me. But yes, Jamie, Kristen said it perfectly. Our brains are attacking ourselves. The chemicals in our body are attacking ourselves. We are both the attacker and the attacked, because as we are choosing to be self-critical, whether it's out of habit or because it's just old behaviors or whatever, our chemicals in our brain are causing us to put up a stress response and fight, flight, or freeze or fawn. And it's flooding our brains with cortisol and adrenaline, and it's causing our body to break down slowly and end up in a frozen, immobilized, exhausted, and eventually burnt out and depressed state, which means we will be no longer existing, because then we're easier prey. So yeah, really mind-blowing. AKA Minute Maid says, I sometimes give self-compassion all at once. It's like I binge on self-compassion after severely starving myself of it. Ooh, this is so common. Yes, 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 yes. So when we're younger, and AKA Minute Maid happens to be younger. So when I say younger, I mean under 25. So when we're younger, our frontal lobe is still developing. And so there's a lot of black and white thinking that are going on. It's either all or nothing. Someone is either all good or all bad. I'm either like, how is your day today? My day is fantastic. Or how's your day today? I want to die. This is not said as a derogatory term. This is just as a clinical term. It's a part of being very emotionally immature. So emotionally immature corresponding with being immature in years, meaning that you're not mature, meaning that you're not elderly, you're not over 25 where your frontal lobe is fully developed, you're not in your late 20s, early 30s, 40s, 50s. It's natural for you to be all self-compassion or all self-loathing. it's the states in which we fluctuate in when we're at the age that you're at, which is under 25, because your frontal lobe is still being developed. So, and that's also why sometimes we make very impulsive decisions. We make very, very, very impulsive decisions when we're young because we don't have reasoning skills that adults have. So we're basing it on all or nothing. So it's not a fully informed decision, which is why you lack emotional maturity, because you are not mature in years, which doesn't mean you're immature as a derogatory term at all. I have the utmost respect for you, and I'm super glad you're here. So hopefully that was helpful. Thank you for asking, though. Joey says, nobody is harder on me than me. In your years of recovery, when did you really notice a change in your self-compassion toward yourself? What an excellent question, Joey. Thank you for asking. So I would say, honestly, it has just basically been over the past couple of years. Now, the first 15 years of my recovery was very on again, off again. A lot like AKA Minute Maid said. It was like all healing and then just trying to survive. And then boom, healing, and then boom, surviving. So it was just, my development was arrested. You've heard of Arrested Development, but I'm not talking about the television series that you can watch on Netflix, which is, by the way, a really good television series to binge on if you're on this channel, because you will be shocked at how much it's your life. But our development is arrested as children. Arrested development is a real thing. It means that your development is halted at a certain age if you are traumatized at a certain age, and that your development is not nurtured by your surroundings or your caregivers. So, for instance, for the first 20-something years of my life, I was in trauma. I was still being exploited, okay? Then I sort of got away from it physically, but not virtually. And I was still in random touch with random pop-bys and family engagements and phone calls. And then right around that time, there were text messages started happening. Very, it was just when cell phones were sort of out. And that was probably right around the time that I was 27, when cell phones were all the craze, and we're yeah, everybody has a cell phone. So by the time I was 30, and I started to sort of pull away from abusers and toxic living and all of that, it was huh. And then for the next few years, I felt myself pulling away, and really anytime I was living in a self-destructive pattern, Joey, I was noticing, gosh, this is really self-destructive. I don't like this. I don't want this. And so then I really started pouring myself into my work, and I was doing more healing work, a little bit more journaling, more self-reflection, really becoming more self-aware, reaching out, sort of learning about spirituality, realizing I couldn't do it all on my own, figuring out higher power situation, and just really just finding my relationship with God. And that was in my really early 30s. And then when I got separated in physical proximity, the short answer, Joey, is when I was physically not close to the toxic source. When low contact was established in 2006, I would say that my healing began to become more obvious. And then it took several years, probably about 5 or 6 years, for me to be wow, something's changing here. I'm actually getting better. And I'm not struggling as much. And my life is actually worth living. And I'm excited to be alive. And I really don't want to just exist. I want to live, and I want to help people. And so that was probably, I would say, about 7 or 8 years ago. But then just another wave of my healing journey and the grieving process that comes with new memories. Because when you're in a good place, that's when new memories come. Not fun. So that was really hard. I had a mental breakdown. And when my son deployed in the military, I had a mental breakdown. And I didn't know how to be self-compassionate. So it wasn't until probably the last 3 years, that I started to really be able to embrace the whole idea of self-compassion. And so it's just been over the last few years that I've been sort of adopting that best practice and sort of weaving it into the fabric of my life, to where I could make it a part of my daily life and see the benefits and go, okay, this is actually a thing. This is a thing, and it will work for me. It's not just a thing like a woo-woo thing. This is actually a thing, and there's research and there's science. And you guys saw the graph that I showed you. So this is all fairly recent data. And so I didn't know a lot about self-compassion as a thing, Joey. until probably 2006 or 7. If you guys see this here, yeah, it wasn't until about 2006 or 7 that I knew it was kind of a thing. And I would say from 2008 to 2010, I was really kind of just figuring it out a little bit and wanting to learn more. And I would say it probably wasn't until probably 2012 that I started, I don't know, embracing it for myself. And then I would say 2013 is when I sort of had like a break with reality, and a traumatic break, like when my son deployed with the military. That was really painful for me. That was 2013 or 2012, late 2012, and then early 2013. And so I knew at that point that I was either going to die because I couldn't live, or I was going to learn to be compassionate with myself. So it really depends on the person, but that's my story. My story is it came to a point where it was either I'm going to die or I'm going to learn to embrace self-compassion. And not everyone is going to have that type of drama, okay? Like, not everyone is going to have drama like I had drama, okay? But I had some drama. So I was either going to die because I wanted to die, or I was going to embrace the thought, the concept of self-compassion, which is what I decided to do. And then I decided to share it with all you guys. And now I'm just, my healing is exponential because I'm helping so many other people and reaching out and helping others, not when we're in crisis. We cannot help others when we are in crisis, FYI. I'm saying that to one of you. One of you wants to help people when you're in crisis. Someone needed to hear that. Some of you. I don't know which ones, but you know who you are. So when you're in crisis, you got to put your oxygen mask on first, and then you tend to the person next to you, or then you tend to other people. But without putting the oxygen mask on our face first, unless we're okay, we cannot help others. But once I was okay and I wasn't in crisis anymore and I wasn't in the middle of a traumatic break, then I was like, you know what? I can't be the only person going through this. I'm going to help some other people. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys. I didn't mean to ramble on and be annoying, as the haters love to say. August. Hi, August. August says, I feel like I can't be kind to me. It feels wrong. I am so ashamed. How can I deserve good things? That is very common, August. Again, we've been programmed that kindness feels wrong, and we've been programmed for shame. But the shame doesn't belong to us. And I'm telling you, it will take a while, but don't give up. Don't give up. Self-compassion says that you are deserving of kindness and love just because you're human. And the last time I checked, August, you're definitely human. So I hope that helps. But I felt that way for a really long time, August. Like, seriously, a really long time. Like, I wanted to die. It felt so wrong. Being kind to myself felt so wrong because I was told my whole life that I was selfish. You're just selfish. It's like you begin to believe it, you know? Desiree. Hi, Desiree. I don't know if I've ever gotten a chance to say hi to you personally. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Desiree says, do medications like Xanax reduce your ability to self-soothe or calm down? That is an excellent question, Desiree. And I'm not a doctor. I can only give you my opinion. And my opinion is if medication is prescribed to you by a doctor, then that's an excellent thing for you to do. If you trust your doctor, then take those medications. Does it reduce your ability to self-soothe? If we are numb, then we are unable to self-assess. So I guess it would have to do with the effect that the Xanax has on you. If it makes you numb and it reduces your ability to assess your affect, then I would say that it would reduce your ability to self-soothe or calm down. But sometimes if you're prescribed Xanax by a doctor, it's because you need it, because your life depends on calming you down, because you're in a state of crisis. So check with your doctor for sure. I guess the short answer would be, I don't know, because I'm not a doctor, but my hypothesis is that anything that causes us to not be clear will reduce our ability to self-soothe or calm down. But that being said, if I'm in a state of hyperarousal and the Xanax is calming me down so that I can self-soothe and calm down, then that's a good thing. But if I'm in a state of hypoarousal where I'm dissociative, I'm in a dissociated state, then Xanax is not going to help me. So I would check with your doctor. That's really something that your doctor needs to answer. It would depend on the person, is the answer, Desiree. Xanax has a different effect on everyone. It's going to affect me differently than it affects you. So I hope that's helpful. I don't feel like I was helpful at all, and I am sorry. Tatiana. Hi, Tatiana. Is self-compassion the same thing as self-care? And that is such a good question. Tatiana, I want to look at you. Tatiana, that is such a good question. Self-care is part of self-compassion. So self-compassion is us embracing the idea that we are worthy of love and kindness just because we're human. And self-care is the action we take once we believe that we're worthy of love and kindness simply because we're human. So acts of self-care, if we are doing acts of self-care and we don't believe that we're worthy of it because we're human, they can help us, but they won't help us to the degree that it will help us if we're embracing an idea of self-compassion. I hope that's helpful and that I didn't just talk you around in circles. Please let me know if that was helpful. Trina. Trina says, how come we can have compassion for others easy but not ourselves? Trina, because it goes against our programming. For children who were abused, for adult survivors of childhood abuse, as a child, we were told through words and actions and withholding of love that we were not worthy of love and kindness simply because we're human. As children who were abused as children or neglected as children, we were told through words and actions and withholding of love that we are not worthy of love and kindness simply because we're human. It was based on performance or abilities or accomplishments or the way the wind blows or how many beers Uncle Joe has to drink or if mommy happened to be on cocaine or if daddy happened to pop some pills or if brother was out drinking with his buddies, or if sister had a fight with her boyfriend, okay? But self-compassion means that we are worthy of love and kindness simply because we are human, apart from our performance, apart from our abilities, and apart from our accomplishments. So we can have compassion to other people because we innately believe that people are worthy of kindness and love simply because they are human. But since we were told through words, actions, and withholding of love that was not the case for us, that we were the exception, everybody else deserved it but we didn't, then it feels very foreign to us and it feels wrong to us. And so what we end up doing is we end up pouring it out to other people in hopes that they will reflect it back to us. And sometimes it lands and sometimes it doesn't. That's why we need to adopt self-compassion as a best practice, because we aren't just reflecting it out hoping that they will reflect it back to us. We're actually applying it directly to where it's needed. I hope that was helpful. I feel like these are all really good questions, and we're getting close to the end of our broadcast, but I'm so excited that you guys are enjoying this, because I'm really enjoying it. Paul Ward. Hi, Paul. Paul says, how do we find self? Ooh, what a great question. Paul, we recorded a video on how to find our authentic selves. Harriet, could you pop up a YouTube card here or here? I forget where it goes. On how to find our authentic selves. Because honestly, Paul, if all we know is the trauma, it's really hard to know who we really are. But through courageous acts of self-compassion and self-soothing and self-affirmation, which all takes time, it's not like boom, right off the bat, right? But through courageous acts of self-compassion and self-soothing and self-championing, we can definitely find ourselves. And it's so exciting when you do. It's really, really exciting when you do. Because you feel fully alive. And you're like, I know why I was born and why I'm on this planet. And I'm living it out. I'm living out my purpose. And it's amazing. So please take a look at that video that we did on how to find our authentic selves. Ooh, and I think there's a one page. So if you go to nomoreshameproject.com and you click on downloadables, Paul, can someone send this to Paul? In case he's not here, I don't know when he asked that question. What time was it when he asked that question? I hope he's still here. Oh, you know what? That was like a half an hour ago. So if Paul's gone, I don't know if Paul's still here. But someone let Paul know. If he goes to nomoreshameproject.com and then he clicks on downloadables, just search the downloadables for, I believe it's called How to Find Our Authentic Selves, or click on the link that Harriet put on the YouTube card. And that should help. But I just know that I've finally found myself, and I know why I'm on this planet. I'm here to serve others, and I'm excited. And not everybody is supposed to do what I'm doing. Like, how boring would that be if everybody did the same thing, right? Like for instance, you know, Johnny's purpose in life could be to study and research and find a cure for malaria. And like, you know, Jane's purpose and authentic true self could be to paint beautiful murals. Mine is to record videos for survivors on living a healthy lifestyle and a healthy, proactive lifestyle, and not be stuck in trauma. And I love just sharing a lifestyle of health and wholeness and healing with you guys, and how to break the cycle of abuse and trauma in your life. Like, that's my purpose. That's myself. So I hope you find yours though, Paul. And when you do, I want you to tell me what it is, because not everybody has the same purpose, obviously, because that would be very boring. And like Steve Jobs' purpose was to blow all of our minds with thinking differently and thinking outside of the box and creating things that nobody ever thought possible, like the iPod and the iPhone and, you know, all that. And he inspired people to think differently, to think outside the box. And, you know, other people, like I could think of all these different famous people right now, and like their purpose in life was different than ours. And, you know, there are some people, their purpose is to create amazing, delicious cuisine, and they develop these incredible recipes of delicious food. And they start restaurants. These restaurants where people are lined up out the door, and reservations are, you have to make them months in advance. And, you know, that's an amazing gift. But you have a gift. You have a gift that is uniquely yours, and I hope you find it, Paul. I lost some people on that monologue, so I apologize. Oh, we're getting towards the end, that's why. Hey, Jess. Jess says, I hate myself when people want to help me. Oh, no. I hate myself when I help me. Self-care does feel selfish. Kindness feels like a trap. Oh, my goodness. I have thought all of those same thoughts, and I have felt all of those same feelings, Jess. And I am happy to tell you that they are old thinking, and that they don't have to be your forever. Part of this is the thing that I was going to share with you guys, and I said at the end of this video I want to share with you about guided meditation. So one thing that runs a common thread through any guided meditation is realizing that the moment we're in right now is not forever, that this too shall pass. You know, the struggle is real. We're doing our best in this world, whether we believe it or not, and this is temporary, and we're going to make it. And all guided meditation is very, very, very helpful for anyone that is struggling with these types of thoughts, and they struggle with self-compassion, and they struggle with self-kindness, and they struggle with being harsh critics of themselves. So Jess, I hope that you'll give it just a little bit more time, because what you're feeling is real, and I've been there, and I don't want to minimize how you're feeling, because it feels like it's going to be that way forever, but I promise it's not. I promise it's temporary. And I think...
Okay. I found something on the web for us very, very, very...
Siri was trying to search what I was saying. That's so funny. So I wanted to tell you guys before I let you go, because it's 1 minute after, I'm losing you one by one by one. There are like only 70 of you now. There were like 75 of you, and now I'm losing you like 5 at a time. So, okay, get this. There's a website called Sounds True, and there are some guided meditations on there, and I think some of them are free, and I think some of them you pay for, but the common thread is that the struggle is real, we're doing our best, and this is temporary, and we're going to get past it. So I'm hoping and really hoping that you guys find some sort of guided meditation that you love, and if I ever do record the waves and decide to create one like professionally in a professional recording studio, I will let you know. But Jess, I've felt those feelings before, and they feel very real, but I promise they're not permanent. I don't know if that helps or not. So glad you're here though, and thank you for being brave enough to share, because a lot of people are probably feeling the same way, Jess. Willow says, is learned helplessness potentially why I could be feeling stuck when it comes to self-compassion? Also, strange maybe, but I find self-compassion patronizing. Yes. That's interesting that you should say that, Willow. Akamai. That's the word that we use here in Hawaii for you, Willow. Akamai. A-K-A-M-A-I. Akamai. Yeah. The reason you find it patronizing is because you've been programmed into a state of learned helplessness. Because you were likely, and I don't know anything about your situation, Willow, so please don't take offense if I'm completely off base and wrong, but clients that are in your position that I've had that struggle with the thought of self-compassion because of their state of learned helplessness, and they actually find self-compassion to be very patronizing, were actually abused by very cerebral narcissists who prided themselves in knowing everything. These are predators who often have master's degrees, sometimes PhDs. They're professors of universities. Perhaps they run entire organizations. They're the CEOs. They run the supermarket. They run the post office. They run their own business. And so their type of abuse to us to get us in such a state of learned helplessness is that the only reality and the only good thing and the only healing and the only truth is what they say it is, and whenever they say it is, and whatever they say it is. And so this whole self-compassion thing is like, whatever. Yeah, like, oh, you poor little thing, you just need some self-compassion. Like, really just nails on a chalkboard, you can't stand it. I'm just guessing, and I could be completely wrong, but there's a pretty awesome cerebral narcissist in your life. who could have possibly been part of your abuse. And when I say pretty awesome cerebral narcissist, I don't mean awesome as in good. I mean like big, like malignant, psychopath, possibly Machiavellian. Google the term dark triad, see if anything rings any bells for you. Yeah. But learned helplessness, in fact, Bobby and I recorded a video on learned helplessness, and that is a very real thing that a lot of survivors live with, that they live with currently, and it does keep them from practicing self-compassion. It's not the entire reason why self-compassion feels patronizing. That could be due to someone who is rather cerebral and looks down their nose at the world, and they know everything, and they might have been part of your life or part of your abuse. So Harriet, if you could pop up a card, a YouTube card on the video on the topic of learned helplessness, and then if you could pop up another one after that on the video on the topic of gaslighting, that would be really helpful, because that really comes into play, you guys. And I know I'm running out of YouTube cards and this happens all the time, but there's another video on the topic of the grooming process. And that comes into play with all of this. So Harriet, below this video, if you could please link up learned helplessness, gaslighting, the grooming process, and then for Paul Harvey and his question, it was how to find our authentic selves. So all 4 of those videos in the next 24 to 48 hours or so, give it 72 hours maybe, perhaps on like June 8th, you will have links to all those videos, or you can easily just search our YouTube channel for it. But I hope this video has been helpful for you. If you liked it, and if it has been helpful at all, please give it a thumbs up. And just, I appreciate that. And subscribe to this channel and click the bell if you want to know when we go live. And again, I really can't deal with any more negative, mean, nasty, horrible comments. I've had sort of my fill for the year until I do another virtual summit next year. So I love you guys. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks for sticking around. I know I lost about five or six of you, but it's so awesome to have all of you here, and I'm grateful for each of you. So thanks for sticking around. All right, that's the last question. My name is Athena Moberg, and I love recording videos for you guys to help you break the cycle of abuse in your family and learn a healthy lifestyle and enjoy the life that you're living. And I posted in the YouTube chat box earlier, my husband and I were watching basketball over the weekend. I'll let you go after this if all you guys, this is just fun. If you guys are like done learning, I'm just rambling on and just being funny, so you can hang up, but or click off. But we were watching basketball over the weekend a little bit at nighttime, late at night when I was done working, and there was a Nationwide commercial, like Nationwide is on your side, right? And I was like, I was humming in my head like, TRU is here with you. I was like, hey, we need a jingle. Okay, I'm done. By the way, oh, that's my keyboard, you guys. I'm really feeling called to sort of, I have a lot of you emailing me about Bible study, prayer time, worship songs, and so that's my keyboard. And I'm going to be, I've been learning piano because of you guys. So thank you. And then back there is my little art studio area where I do some painting and some drawing, and that's my little coat rack. But yeah, so that's what that is. So stay tuned. I started my own YouTube channel so that anything like faith-based or faith-related will be on a whole nother channel. I really want to be respectful of those of you here who are survivors of any type of religious abuse or cult abuse or anything like that. And I just want to create a separate space for anybody who wants anything faith-based. So thanks for inspiring me to learn how to play worship piano. And I mean, I have like Bible study every single day with my husband and prayer time and stuff like that. So just to share those things with you guys, I'll be doing that on another channel. But thanks. Oh, and the food group, like emotional eating group. And then the mental health mornings, like going for walks and stuff like that. Like that kind of stuff is still on the calendar, but you know, I was doing the Narcissistic Abuse Virtual Summit and World Narcissistic Abuse Awareness Day, so that hasn't happened yet. But thanks for being here. I love you guys, and I'll see you next Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Bye.